So, obviously, we're passionate about health. Obviously, it's a huge part of our life. And you're a personal trainer.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot to that topic. A ton.
Yeah.
And health, we have always said, is super nuanced, super complex,
Yeah.
and super loaded. So, yesterday morning, well, okay, you've thought of doing a podcast in the past about fitness, kind of, health and stuff.
About fitness and overcoming obstacles and business and, health and stuff like that. But never really pulled the trigger on anything. I think I loaded the software probably 20 different times and never did anything.
Right. I think, we've had our hands in so many things and maybe it was never the right time, but yeah, we were having this conversation yesterday morning. Honestly, probably a similar conversation to a conversation we have a lot, but it was like something clicked. It was more like, I don't know, something just made sense yesterday morning. And all of a sudden, Phillip goes, should we do a podcast? This was yesterday morning, and we actually planned on recording this last night. So it would have been in the same day. But we had he is also a producer, if you don't already know. And we had a couple of things that we still needed to get. So we ordered some stuff same day Amazon, and it didn't come in, so it wasn't meant to be until today. But still,
if it was up to us, we would have been recording this last night.
We would have been ready to go.
Hours late. If we had the equipment, we would have recorded it that next 10 minutes.
Literally. Yeah. So it just really felt like the right thing to do. And I think the conversation that we were having was really good. Really uncomfortable in a lot of ways. And also a bit vulnerable for us to put ourselves out there, put our views out there. Like anytime you're gonna put yourself out there to any extent, it's going to be a little bit like, okay, well, here I go. I'm gonna, put myself out there for critique or not or whatever, but you're putting yourself out there and it can be a little bit like, nerve-wracking. But we feel really good about it and we feel really confident about it. So I'm Elizabeth. I'm Phillip's wife.
I'm Phillip. I'm Elizabeth's, almost said wife, Elizabeth's husband.
Personal trainer, wife. I don't really have any titles when it comes to health, but I have my story, which is what got me here. It's what made me, I guess, become so passionate about health. Obviously,
Yeah.
But since we're, telling them it, I'll try to make a long story short because I feel like we don't need to go into all the details, at least in the first episode, Yeah, but basically, I grew up fairly healthy. We honestly have similar stories. His parents really tried to, keep you guys healthy to some extent.
The best that you can with 7 kids. Where it's
true.
there was a lot of bulk chicken breasts being baked and stuff like that.
But still, there was a certain level of awareness there.
100%.
And same on my side. I feel like my parents tried, we had to ask if we could have a soda and stuff like that. But, there was a lot of, it was an interesting time. I feel like the early 2000s, there was just a ton, height of packaged snacks and
convenience.
Yeah, convenience and a lot of, I wouldn't say misinformation, probably misinformation, but a lot of lack of information, I guess. And I didn't grow up super sick or anything, but definitely grew up with a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of mental health stuff, which I feel like is also normalized and common.
Yeah.
So you don't think too much of it, but it was definitely normal to get sick.
Yeah.
I was sick pretty semi-frequently. Now
something was wrong every year, for sure. Something. Yeah.
Definitely. And I would definitely now consider that as common. Not common, but getting sick often.
Yeah.
Like,
in
like
society.
now or no, just like now, with how often I get sick now, which is never.
Yeah.
Like never, literally never. To me, like looking back, I was like, man, that's often. And I think it was normal though. Like it was normal to so many people, and maybe still is to a lot of people. Like, yeah, you get your yearly cold, and it's normal if you get a stomach bug, and like you're a kid and stuff. And like to an extent, I get some of that. Your immune system is developing and all that stuff. You're in school, you know.
Eating more fast food and just it's almost trendy. Like in middle school and high school, like going to Whataburger, that's like an event. It's like much more normal.
Yeah. But anyway, so I would consider myself to have been getting sick pretty often. I would get upset stomachs a lot. And as I got older, I feel like I became sicker or like aware, I guess, of some of the issues that I had. I tried to run cross country in high school and it just did not work. And I'm not just saying that because I hate running. I'm not just saying that because it's so hot here. I'm not saying that because there's so many normal things about why cross country wouldn't work for someone.
Well, the hatred probably partially comes from the fact that you always felt like shit.
Yeah. Well, I was getting to that. But yeah, like I felt like shit. I felt like complete shit. And I felt like the best way I describe it is I felt like a 60-year-old or something as a freshman in high school. I felt just so ill. Like I couldn't, and it's not just that we were running in, 100-degree heat, because we would run at 4 p.m. and we're in South Texas and it was brutal. I mean, it's just brutal on its own.
It just shouldn't be okay.
But I was like chronically dehydrated. I, like I said, was just kind of sick often, and I just felt weak. I just didn't feel good. And it was like I there was definitely something underlying where I was like, I can tell something's off. And actually the summer going into high school, I had passed out for the first time at Fiesta, Texas, which is embarrassing. Passing out in public for my first time passing out. First time passing out. Yeah.
Just like
so there's more times. Like, the way I said that, I'm like, my first time passing out.
But like, wait, there's more.
Yeah, which definitely is leading to the fact that I had a passing out problem a little bit. So yeah, a little bit of backstory. It just, I guess, like as I got older, I just kind of started picking up on things that was like, I feel off. I just don't feel great. I don't feel like my age. I should feel like these are our glory years. Everyone talks about, oh, you're in your prime, just wait type of thing. And I'm like, I feel like shit. Like, what are you talking about? How much worse can it get? Like, yeah.
This is prime.
Literally. Yeah. So I met you shortly after high school. Getting a little backstory on us too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it was literally the year we both graduated, 2013. Later on that year.
Like, graduation's a little.
This guy was homeschooled and didn't really have a graduation.
I graduated the year before, but we're not going to go into the details of that, about the fact that the party was a year and a half later.
All right, whatever. In homeschool, like, well, I think some people can walk the stage, right? But like their party is their graduation.
It's like the barn patio is usually when you walk.
Okay, getting off topic. I feel like we're gonna have to do that so much in this. Like, what were we talking about? That was serious. Okay.
Be serious. Let's be serious. Let's be right here.
And I don't know. It's hard to remember exactly because I feel like so much again was normalized.
Yeah.
Even for myself. Like, you don't know what you don't know. So I'm like, yeah, I'm fairly healthy, like, and kind of care about health and stuff like that. And like, try. I work out. Whatever. My workouts were always like brutal, but I thought that was normal, and it is or can be to a certain extent.
Why it's brutal matters.
Yeah. And I feel like there was like a couple more instances of like passing out when it would get really hot. I had issues like temperature regulating, but we live in South Texas, so I normalized that too. It was like
everyone
people
does, right?
get dehydrated. Like I had gone to the doctors for several issues, gut issues, a lot of things, and they always kind of just blew me off. Like it was never taken seriously. It was always just like, yeah, I don't know, here's an antibiotic for this. Here's, some
Band-Aids.
Yeah, Band-Aid approaches. It was like, here's a prescription for your gut issues. Like, I I went to specialists. I did all these things and they never had answers for me. And the feeling that I got was like, what I had was not serious enough to be taken serious.
Yeah.
That's definitely the vibe I got. I don't have to go into the details of how I was treated and all that stuff, but
well, like you said, the things that you were mentioning to people were they sound fairly normal. They're like, you have these things, your stomach gets upset. Okay,
they're like, yeah, 99% of America
it's
has
really hot outside. You got overheated. Welcome to Texas. You know, like when you talk to a doctor
like,
around
make sure
here,
you drink water and stuff. And I
eat
was
your
like,
greens,
I
grow
was
big
like
and strong.
really drinking water. Like
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I don't think it's dehydration. Like something's up. Yeah. So fast forward till, honestly, what, like 2020, 2019?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like everything just kind of came to a head where it was like, I can barely get off the couch. Like, I am so weak. I was working from the couch. I was like had to muster up so much strength to do anything normal.
Just to get out of bed in the morning.
It was like, I just felt the best way I can describe it, and it's so hard to put into words, but like, the best way I can describe it, and the way that I described it to my doctor was like, I feel like an 80-something-year-old in a 20-something-year-old's body. Because I guess I was like 25 at this time ish.
Yeah.
And I just felt like complete crap. Like, to my core and in my bones felt weak. Like, I just felt so bad. And I just didn't know what was going on. I remember doing a workout with you, and it was kind of high intensity, but pretty normal, like pretty average.
Sets. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty average, especially for like somebody who has worked out for a long time. And I remember earlier in the summer that same year, we had gone outside and done a workout, and I remember like coming so close to passing out.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, we shouldn't do workouts in the heat. Like, we always kind of justified it because it was like, I don't know, like, yeah, you're more sensitive, whatever.
You find a solution that makes sense to the grid that you have. You're like, okay, well, it's hot, and
yeah, like, I guess that was it.
Yeah.
Like, we always knew that something was wrong, but it was kind of just like, okay, well, I guess that's never really going to get figured out, so this is just my normal. And then, yeah, we were in the gym doing a pretty average workout, and I passed out, and it was like, just, I wasn't scared because it had happened multiple times before, but it was just annoying. And I was frustrated. And I remember that night we were like, we have to go to a doctor, and we have to go to a doctor that's going to help us figure this out.
Yeah.
And we ended up choosing a functional medicine doctor. She's amazing. She's an osteopath local to San Antonio. And she ended up helping me figure out what was going on. It turns out that I have some random mutation called MTHFR, and I have two of those gene mutations. And I don't want to go too much into that because
we can spend a whole episode just
definitely.
Yeah.
And if people are interested, I would love to. I feel like is kind of new. Like, they're just now figuring it out, finding research on it, or whatever, researching it.
Yeah.
And there's already people that are like, it's a gimmick, like 40% of people have it, like it's the next fad thing, and they're just trying to get your money. There's all that out there. And I'm just like, dude, don't talk to me about that, because I'm the walking billboard for this freaking mutation.
Literally.
Like, all it is you basically have trouble, your body has trouble methylating properly, which is like this really important process that your body does to regulate and just so many things. There's so many things. A lot.
It's very complex.
Very complex. But pretty much, to make a long story short, every single one of my issues, and I had a lot, I had a laundry list, honestly, was due to this mutation. And now all I do is supplement with a methylated vitamin B complex, and that's it. And I have to do it for the rest of my life, and it's not a perfect science because I still do have some histamine issues that I'm trying to figure out. We do live in San Antonio, which is known as like an allergy capital.
It's awful.
Yeah, the allergies are pretty terrible here, and specifically terrible, especially for someone with this mutation. Yeah. So still working out some things, but night and day difference.
I remember literally the first day, and again, this can be its own whole episode, but I'll mention this just because it's the first initial transformation that I think kickstarted a lot for us. I mean, again, and I can talk a little bit about my story in a second, but just always health's been in there. We've always been lifting weights since I was 13, doing all that stuff. But I remember that day, like it was literally the first day you took this methylated B complex vitamin. And I think it was maybe the next morning that you like woke up okay. And I almost feel like emotional even like now talking about it, where like, I mean, I literally cried.
Yeah,
like,
no, we both did.
It was like, and I love both versions of you, but it was like I was married to a different person. It was like
the real me.
Yeah, it was like
who I always wanted to be.
You jumped out of bed. You had energy and life and like all of the charisma that I knew was inside of you. Like and that's why, like you said, I don't think people understand. They're like, oh, I mean, cool, you have some mutation. Now you take a vitamin B. Everyone should take vitamin B. And it's like, no, it's one of those things that's so hard to comprehend and explain to people that being married to you, and even at that time, we'd already been married, I guess, 2 years probably, that this stuff was happening, 2 to 2.5 years maybe.
3 even.
Yeah, 2.5, 3 years maybe.
Somewhere around there.
When we finally figured out the methylation issue. And so we're obviously very well acquainted at this point. And it was such a night and day experience. It's like impossible to explain. Yeah. I mean, I literally sobbed. You were so alive that I was just like crying. I was so happy that you like finally didn't. I mean, it was like I was taking care of like someone in a hospital sometimes. Not and I don't mean that as like you were such a burden or anything.
No.
But just in the way of like, man, it took, and you know better than anyone, it took so much for you to just get going. And because of the methylation, caffeine wouldn't fix it because you couldn't detox it. You know, it was awful.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we can, there's, like I said, or like we've said several times, there's a whole episode about that. If anyone is interested, then cool. But basically, that is the long story short. So in between going to all the doctors, the specialists, actively trying to figure out this stuff and what's going on with me, and figuring it out finally years later, which I never had hope for. I thought that was never going to happen. So gosh, I talk about it all the time, but I can't explain how grateful I am to my doctor for digging deeper, and just grateful in general.
Not taking no for an answer. Like, I'm gonna get whole.
Yeah.
I don't care what I have to do.
But so there was this, like, few year gap of time where it was like I had kind of given up on doctors for a while because of just the things I went through with conventional medicine doctors, of just being dismissed over and over again, and not being able to figure that thing out, that I was like, I don't know what the point is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I honestly hadn't gone for a while. I want to say like 3 years or something where I hadn't gone to the doctor. And in that bout of time, when we first got married, we both cared about health. You were already a personal trainer.
Yeah.
But I feel like we dedicated ourselves to figuring everything we possibly could out about a quote unquote healthy lifestyle, where it was like, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that we can be as healthy as possible.
Yeah. Because
we didn't have any answers. And it was like, what hope do I have? I felt like I was going to die young. Yeah. I literally did. It was like, and I don't know if I wouldn't have.
Right.
And so it was like, okay, I'm going to do everything in my power and everything that I can control to be healthy. And so in that time, I, followed a bunch of functional medicine doctors on Instagram. I followed a lot of just like, pages that were talking about this kind of thing, and just like health, I guess, and wellness and that type of stuff. And just like soaking it all in for years. Yeah. Like, just like every ounce of information I can get, I just ate it up, because I was like, okay, I love this. Yeah. I love this. Like, and also I do think I I am naturally passionate about health and like helping people find their best version of themselves.
Yeah.
That's always been something in me, something I'm passionate about anyway. But I had that extra like driving factor of like, I need to survive and not just survive. Like I want to live a decent life, you know? And I feel like I deserve that. Like I'm a young person that like wants to feel young and should feel young.
And the underlying, I guess, rumbling with some of this too is we both are, but you're a very ambitious person. Like have huge monumental dreams. We both do, but just speaking to your story specifically, is all of these things that you know you can accomplish in life, and yet you can barely fucking get out of bed in the morning. You can't even think to like make breakfast. What the hell do I make for breakfast? Like, every task is over. I mean, I remember you saying that. Everything's overwhelming.
I don't know. We're really making it sound bad. We're making it sound like I didn't do anything. And I definitely did stuff. And like, I don't know, like I operated in my day-to-day life. Like I had jobs, I held jobs. I'm a hard worker.
1,000,000%.
But, so I definitely did stuff, but it was always just with like an extra 10, at least, no, an extra like 1,000 pounds of baggage. Like
it just took everything in you to do it.
It was just so hard to just like live. There was definitely a disconnect there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like in my mind and in my soul, like in my innermost being, I was this lively person that is a go-getter. Like I'm going to accomplish things in life. And I always knew I would. I just knew that it wasn't going to be this way.
Yeah.
Like no way.
Yeah.
And so I was determined to get there. Like I was like, okay, well, I'm going to figure it out.
Right.
I'm going to unlock this somehow. Maybe it's not going to be with the doctor's help, because I went to multiple and I went to specialists, like I said, but I'm going to figure this out one way or another. And so I really just we dedicated our lives to figuring out how to unlock that. And in that time, I feel like we really learned a lot. It was, a lot of stuff on diet and like what you do really does matter,
right.
or what you do eat or whatever does really matter, and the quality mainly of what you eat really matters. And so that's my story, kind of like wrapped up really quickly. I mean, it doesn't seem quick, but it is quick with years and years of what we went through kind of consolidated into, I don't know, 15 minutes or something.
Yeah.
So your story.
Yeah, I mean, my story, I feel like, is very different from yours. I think some of the environment were similar, where, like we talked about early on, it was always, like, being healthy was always a part of the equation. And I grew up, it's kind of an ongoing joke that we talk about. I grew up out in the country or whatever. But yeah, I grew up on land. We were always doing stuff outside. We're always, working the land, I guess you could say. But, so very active and stuff. And health was always a part of that equation. My mom always tried to cook healthy meals for the family and stuff like that. And kind of like you said, we had to ask if we were going to go out to eat, or ask if we were going to have sodas or candy or something like that. Like, I wouldn't say that we were an obnoxiously unhealthy family. But in a similar way, but very different in its extremes, I always had issues with my body. So it just felt like something was always wrong with me too. And I did a lot of sports. I ran track and cross country, basketball, soccer, all of this stuff. And always had, like, my stomach would get upset almost every time I ran. And I think, to fast forward and rewind, I think it was probably anxiety more than anything than it was like I'm lactose intolerant, because I, separate from that, never had too many issues. But every single race or every single practice, my stomach would get upset at some point. I also had issues when I initially grew. Like, I hit like my major growth spurt when I was maybe 12, 13 years old. I grew extremely fast, and apparently my calves didn't really grow with the rest of me, or as quickly. They didn't develop as quickly.
Super interesting.
Super weird. It was a very random thing, and I had to, go to foot people and figure all that. Yeah, there you go. That's the better word for it. I should figure that one out. But I'd get all these different things and I'll talk about my feet too in a second too. But calves didn't really grow with the rest, and that caused all kinds of tension underneath my knee. It would pull like on my Achilles tendon and stuff like that. And so my knees would lock up. I would be running and I'd warm up and I'd stretch and I'd do all this stuff. But halfway through like a practice of a couple, different sprints or something like that, my right knee would lock up every single time. So I had to go to physical therapy to figure all this stuff out.
Ouch.
And it was awful. And like halfway through half of my races, it would lock up and I'm like, I can't keep running or I'm just going to really slow down and limp
just
it through.
So annoying because we're both competitive too. And sucking at something is the fucking worst.
No, it pissed me off so much. And especially because when I felt healthy, I was fairly good. I'm not, I would never say I was like in some track star or something, but I was varsity and I was competitive. And when I would work my ass off. So when I would do it, it was so exciting because like, man, I could actually be good at this. And then half the time I'm freaking stomach's upset. My knees locking up. I'm also extremely flat-footed.
I love his flat feet. They're so flat.
They're so flat.
And I have a huge arch, so it's very different for me. I tell him his feet look like patas, literally. Like in Spanish, that is animal foot, like paw. Like it literally, they look like paws.
It's just a flat print in the sand. It's just, they're very flat.
I love your patas.
I've learned to love them too. This is what this whole process is. I'm learning to love myself in my flat ass feet. But they're very flat and I would pronate. So that means my feet would roll in and that caused my knees to roll in, my hips to rotate forward. And that caused knee pain, back issues, all of this stuff.
You name
it just, all of these issues. And that's partially kind of what got me into the fitness scene. I started having all these different issues and wanted to learn how I could correct some of the imbalances. Part of that, of course, was going to a podiatrist, and getting podiatrist.
Yeah, there you go.
And got these custom inserts for my shoes and stuff. But even that was its own headache because when I was racing in track, I couldn't put them in my like track spikes and my running shoes. Like it was kind of a waste at that level.
My dad made us get some inserts too. Like we went to like New Balance store and they like watch how you walk and stuff. And like he like put these really, because I have high arches, like really thick inserts in my running shoes, and like I still have them actually. I don't even know why. Maybe they're kind of I'm like attached to them. Yeah.
Where are I've never
in
seen
the closet. The New Balances, you do know the ones that squeak.
They're still the inserts are still in there.
I think so.
What the hell?
Well, I don't know. I just feel like, man, this is a really nice pair of shoes that my dad got me once upon a time. My foot never grew. From like middle school.
Get you some new Balance.
I know, right?
Some New Balances.
But I'm never going to get those again. Like, I don't want those inserts, but I feel like, I don't know, for some reason in the back of my mind, I'm like, if I ever need to like do something where I'm on my feet a lot.
Walking a little funky and I need to
and I need some inserts because they'll, like help my feet or whatever. Like, I don't know. I just have them so. But they squeak every time.
They do squeak a lot.
It's like quirk. Quirk, quirk, quirk every time I take a step. It's a freaking embarrassing. So that's why I honestly haven't worn them in a while, but I'm like, should I be wearing this?
At least you have access to them though. It's a tool in the toolbox.
Exactly. That's why I've held on to them. So thank you and I'm actually not a hoarder. Like, you know this about me.
No,
I'm actually pretty
not
minimalist.
I knew you had the shoes. I just didn't know you still had your middle school inserts in there.
Okay, it's not like actually from middle school. I think it's high school. Which is still crazy. It's already almost been a decade. Like, yeah, time has flown. But I just remember all the old people saying that when I was younger. Time has flown. Time is gonna fly. Enjoy it. Like, whatever.
We're still so young.
We are. Yeah.
Even if it didn't feel like it for most of our lives.
But yeah, that's all.
Yeah, that's all. So
might cut that out. I don't know.
My flat ass feet. That was the whole point there.
Yeah.
Anyways, caused all kinds of other issues, and so it was never, I guess, some like underlying health issue that I felt like I had. I think a lot of it was just a product of some of those, mechanical issues that I had with my feet and my calves and stuff like that. And that kind of got me, that paired with, I also did martial arts since I was 9. I did American Taekwondo. And that was a big part of me.
You have to drop the fact that you're a 4th degree black belt.
I don't like to say that.
Whatever, yes, you do.
I'm a 4th degree black belt. It's no big deal.
Yeah, you gotta brag a little bit every now and then.
It's
you earned
no
it.
big deal. No, yeah, I mean, I did Taekwondo since I was 9, and I practiced in it for, I guess, 15, 16 years, something like that, a long time, and did get my 4th degree black belt. And that was a huge part, I think, of me learning about my body and how it moved, because a lot of it was, joint manipulation and like foot positioning and stances and stuff like that really teach you how to position your body to, give you the most strength and balance and stability and stuff like that. So I think martial arts was a huge part of that equation. Kind of by default, kind of moving through high school, as I was doing martial arts and as I was doing sports, I kind of ended up being the muscle fitness guy. So like we'd finish practices.
Just like morphed into that.
Yeah, just kind of morphed. At the end of track practices, I'd get all the high school guys and girls together and I'd lead them in a fitness thing or core workout at the end for 5 minutes. And then eventually the coaches started asking me to do that for everyone. Awesome. And same thing kind of happened in Taekwondo, where I devoted myself to learning about the body and how it moved and the mechanics and stuff like that. And so then I started kind of training the black belts and taking the initial warm up and muscle fitness part of the martial arts school that we had.
Like you obviously enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, I loved it. It just kind of came naturally. That morphed into me starting my own little group fitness classes, so on football fields and at parks and stuff like that. I would just get a group of people together for real cheap, hang out at a park, do a workout. And so that's kind of how that started. And eventually I ended up getting certified as a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And actually like pursued it as a business. So I think for me, because I didn't have any underlying nutritional restrictions that I knew of or any other health issues that I could really fathom, for me, it was mechanical. I think for my route was much more mechanical. I moved into, learning about anatomy, personal training, group fitness classes, stuff like that.
Definitely.
And so by default, when we met and got together, it was kind of the perfect marriage because I knew all of that side. I knew the whole muscular side of it. And you were going through all of these health issues that were much more internal. And
more like diet stuff.
Right. And they had a lot of depth to them because they were not just affecting your body, they were affecting your emotions. They were affecting...
Well, I was going to say diet and mental health for sure.
1,000,000%. And so that's a very fast-forwarded version just because I feel like there's not as much depth to mine just because I didn't go to...
Which is good because I don't want to bore them, or I don't want the whole first episode to be all about like, guys, this is our health issues.
In my
fifth
doctor's
stories.
appointment, we talked about, so
definitely not.
My second podiatrist appointment.
But I could, I'm having to hold back. I'm like, because this adds so much to the story. Like, I want you guys to know how serious it was, but no,
in due time.
Yeah.
In due time.
Yeah, and if it never comes up, it's fine.
Yeah.
I feel like I still have to justify myself sometimes. Like I still have to convince people that because I always looked decently healthy.
Sure.
I mean, I was technically always underweight, but people glorify skinniness.
100%.
And it always felt so weird. I mean, weight comments are always weird. Just don't do them. But
it doesn't matter what side it's on. Just don't.
Yeah,
you never know what someone's going through underneath the surface that has put them in the position that they're in, whether you perceive it as under or over or normal or not.
Yeah.
You'd never know emotionally and physically what is going on.
Literally. I mean, autoimmune stuff is it wrecks your life.
Yeah.
And thank God I don't have anything autoimmune related. I thought they did think that I did, that they thought that's what it probably was. But turns out it was just this methylating thing. But I just realized that sometimes I think I still feel like I have to convince people that hey, something's really wrong with me here. It felt like I was screaming it to people something is really wrong with me. Can you please help me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And no one was taking me seriously and no one seemed to care. No one was I don't know, helping.
And you have to remember that that's your own version of hell. And what you're going through that's so personal to you, you're like, okay, well, it's not cancer.
Yeah.
We start to kind
I would
of
have died by now, right?
Yeah, we put it in its own box where it's okay, I'm not starving. It's not cancer. It's not this over here. And so it can't be that bad. Come on, snap out of it. What are you doing? You're okay. And you go through your whole life that way until you get to a place where you're like, maybe I shouldn't be living fatigued and exhausted and all of these things.
No, I think it definitely came to a head. Like, it was like, you're not going to go throughout your life like this anymore.
Yeah,
period.
Yeah.
Like, you can't.
And there's a level of self-acceptance that has to happen, right? Where you have to be like, okay, I can't put to the side that I feel this way.
Yeah. I have to admit that I'm weak as heck right now and I don't know what's going on. And I have to try the doctor thing again.
Yeah.
I have to go to the doctor and try to get them to take me seriously and convince them.
Yeah.
Like, please help me do something, you know?
Gosh.
But yeah. So, pretty long journey there.
Yeah. An ongoing journey.
Definitely.
You know?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
There's not really a bow on this one.
Everything in life is an ongoing journey. We're very big advocates of that concept of just always growing, always learning, always aiming to be better.
I think that's one of the things that probably solidified our relationship too. I think was both of our, not that this is like some relationship podcast, but like our willingness to grow.
Or is it?
And learn. Or is it? Or is it?
I mean, it might have to do with health. I don't know.
Relational
Who
health,
knows?
emotional health, physical health.
I do feel like mental health will be a part of this conversation.
I mean, that 1,000,000%.
And maybe in turn relationships. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nothing's off limits.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess we can get into the gist of what we were talking about yesterday morning, which really was, I guess, the pinnacle of like our hypeness. We were getting really hype talking about this. And this is the part that gets a little bit vulnerable and where you'll have to have some grace and patience for us, because we may not put everything in like perfect terms. We may not even have our thoughts perfectly constructed, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We're still processing a lot about this topic and always will be, like we were saying. But basically what we were talking about was the fact that there is a huge gap in, I guess, like health, fitness, body movement, like body positivity, that type of stuff. And you and I have always, so a lot of people may not know this, but I help Phillip a lot with his fitness business. Like, I am half of that business.
Yeah.
You just don't see me because I'm on the back end. I do a lot of the marketing stuff. I help with the admin stuff.
Sure. Social media.
Yeah. You're the face of the brand. You're the actual trainer and stuff. But we really do make a good team in that. But yeah, so I'm very much involved in the fitness business.
Yeah.
And we've always kind of hated it.
Honestly,
right?
It is, the deeper I have gone into it, the more people and gyms and professionals and whatever that I've experienced, the more disdain I have for a lot of the language, a lot of the culture that surrounds the gym and fitness and nutrition experience for people. And it's quite frankly disgusting a lot of times.
Yeah.
In a lot of different ways. I mean, there's a spectrum to that.
Definitely. And that's like a very, not just bold, but like a very what is it, like all-encompassing statement, or like broad. Yeah. Exactly. It's a very broad statement where it's like, okay, well, what do you mean by that exactly?
Because I also love my industry with my whole heart.
Exactly.
And
we're so passionate about it.
Right.
Yeah. So it's super broad. What do we mean by that exactly? That's what we want to get into.
Yeah.
That's what this podcast hopefully is going to be about.
This podcast called I don't know what we're calling it.
So, okay, his original idea when he was going to start his own podcast that I wasn't necessarily even going to be a part of, really, maybe every now and then, but, you know, was going to be called Beyond Failure. And do you want to describe what that, just in case it does end up being that?
So Beyond Failure was a name that I'd come up. Failure and muscular failure is a term in fitness that kind of describes when you're at the complete fatigue point. It's much more difficult because of lactic acid and other stuff to contract muscles. You're done. Like, you've hit like 9 reps was your max. You can't do 10. You've hit muscle failure. And so there's terms that you can use in fitness and moving beyond that point and changing how you do an exercise, changing your weight, making adjustments in your movements in order to move beyond muscle failure. And I also thought that it was maybe a creative term for things that we do, obviously, in life, in business, and relationships.
Yeah.
Like, how do we move beyond failure? And how do we adapt? How do we move? So I had initially had an idea to have whether it was like fitness, business, relationship, like this all-encompassing podcast, I guess, based around moving past our failures. So that was kind of my initial spiel.
No, I like it. It's a really cool name. It's a really cool concept. I feel like we'll just know when it's time to upload this if we're like, this is beyond failure, or if it's something else.
Or if it'll be that right there. Whatever that is.
Watch us not put anything in there. That'd be hilarious.
No, I'll forget.
But yeah, so who knows what this is going to be named. I feel like we are just so pumped about this and doing the message of it, that we don't really care what it ends up being that much. But yeah, getting back to the concept that was exciting us so much, and I think the foundation, could I be so bold as to say that? The foundation of this podcast is this concept of filling the gap between extreme industry when it comes to fitness and health and wellness,
medicine,
and
whatever,
diet culture.
Yeah. Oof.
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 Fad diets.
Oof.
Oof. All of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Huge. I mean, multi-million, billion, I don't know, dollar industry.
100%.
But industry, man, like.
Yeah. And this goes hand in hand, and they both push each other, but industry and culture. And so you're not only fighting an industry that's pushing stuff, you're fighting a culture that pushes it. So the industry pushes it, so the culture does it. It's this marriage between the two that is so toxic that you're like, I guess my only option in fitness is to do it this way, right? Because that's what industry and culture is talking about.
No, definitely.
But it might be the worst thing for your body.
Definitely.
The worst thing for your mechanics, for your mental health. I mean, how many things had we tried even with you? They're like, oh yeah, that was actually the worst diet you.
I mean, veganism. We did everything.
We did everything.
Whole30.
We've done all of the
Should
freaking
we name them?
diets. We've done them all. We've done the Whole30, paleo.
This was all a part of our journey.
And we were both vegan for a while. You a little bit longer than I to try it. Well, this whatever, bruh. Yeah. So and I say all of that with a caveat that any one of those things might be perfect for you. Might be the exact thing that your body needs because of its issues and its things that it needs to rebalance and remineralize and all of these things that cells might need something that those diets give you. But man, when you look at culture and you look at the industry, they tend to just move you in one way. Look this way. This is what healthy looks like. This is what fit looks like. This is the ideal human standard.
Yeah.
Do whatever and anything that it takes to get there.
Definitely.
And
I mean, it goes hand in hand with beauty standards, which are already completely unrealistic for women. And I mean, it's just
women
on
have
and on.
Short end of the stick when it comes to both of those industries.
It's on and on. Yeah. And on the other end, we have extremism on both sides, right? So on this very extreme end of the spectrum, it is, which most of these people I feel like over here have been hurt by this industry, understandably so.
A lot of trauma.
Yeah, a lot of trauma, have maybe, been overweight or extremely underweight their whole lives or whatever, have you.
Talked to their family a certain way or talked to by their family a certain way because of those things, 1,000,000%.
So much stuff over here. And I already told you, but like I feel like it's a spectrum, and I feel like I definitely lean towards understanding these people and like being on their side if I had to pick a side more, where I just relate to them more. And I guess especially being a woman, you know, with unrealistic beauty standards and I don't know, but on the extreme side it is like, fat positivity or extremely skinny, even positivity, and like celebrate one of those things, like celebrate extreme skinniness, Which I feel like that actually is more so on
Kind
this
of,
side.
yeah, it ties over there.
Okay, so extreme fatness or whatever, which there is something admirable about that. Like the boldness that it takes to like put yourself out there and be like, this is my damn body. No one's going to tell me what the heck to do with it, what to eat, how to live.
Yeah.
And there's something I definitely respect about that.
And taking the gold of love yourself the way you are, accept yourself the way you are. Like those are great things.
Right.
Those are necessary things
Definitely.
to move forward in anything and to make any kind of progress. You have to love yourself. You have to accept yourself. That's amazing.
When it comes to health, that's a different conversation.
Sure.
And that's what we want to focus on, I guess. And the concept of health is so broad, again, so vast and so nuanced that it just gets so frustrating when so many people want to make it black and white.
Yeah.
And one size fits all.
Yeah.
And I feel like if we had a mission statement, it would be somewhere along these lines where health is not, cannot, and will not ever be one size fits all.
Right.
And every body is so unique and has different medical history and has different needs that the right way or whatever is somewhere here in the middle. It's a balance and it is individualized. It is very much what works for one may not work for the next, may not work for the other, but it really works for them and good that they found what works for them.
And I mean, that was about 3 years ago, I think. We decided to change the name of my business for that reason. We were talking about some of this stuff. And I was just Phillip Torvik Fitness or whatever, for however long. That's just what I called whatever I did for fitness. And we decided to change it to Identity Fitness and put the focus in it because that's what we were passionate about. I wasn't trying to create bodybuilders out of all of my clients unless someone came to me and said, I'm prepping for a show, I need to do bodybuilding or something. Like,
you've always been a very health-focused personal trainer, which has been hard to like know exactly how to explain and how to market even.
100%.
Where it's like, okay, you don't do roids.
Yeah.
Not very common already.
Yeah.
But, and you don't want to be the biggest and you don't necessarily want to compete.
Yeah.
Maybe you can see the value in those things. I'm not trying to,
100%.
Whatever.
And personal journey, personal story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Not in this conversation, definitely not trying to throw anyone under the bus. I know we'll probably ruffle feathers because it is an uncomfortable conversation.
It's vulnerable.
I just think that in order to create change create change, we have to be willing to talk and create or start a conversation about this stuff and see where it goes. And like, we really want to hear y'all's perspective on things and what you have to say about this stuff and what you think about this stuff. And in everything that we say, we're not claiming to be right.
Yeah.
We're not claiming to know it all. We're not
experts on every subject.
Definitely not. Yeah. Absolutely not. But just opening the conversation like, hey guys, can we talk about this? Because we've been a part of this industry for a long time, thought about giving up a lot. And we don't want to.
Yeah, yeah.
But we really want to talk about this stuff. And I really think in turn, people will understand more about our business. And, and hopefully we'll find more of our people.
I think that was kind of one of the underlying foundations of the conversation we were having yesterday morning was this is the stuff that I want to communicate to clients. This is the stuff that I talk every time that I meet a new client. I'm trying to understand their medical history and how their body moves and what it really needs in order for them to reach their goal in a healthy, sustainable way. How do we have this conversation? And it just got frustrating through social media and through all these things. We're like, I guess we'll post another workout. I guess not that there's any. Again, I like to post workouts and I like to obviously give people just different tips, but it's so much deeper than that.
And I mean, you're so experienced by now. Yeah. You've been in the game officially
almost 11 years now. Yeah,
and I don't know, probably trained well over 100.
Hundreds of people. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like we've just kind of come to this place where we're like, we have to be more authentic.
Yeah.
Put ourselves out there more, or we're going to give this up because I don't want to do it the way we were doing it anymore. Neither of us did. It leads to burnout, and it's like just trying to do what everyone else is doing and just trying to fit when you really don't doesn't work. And I think people feel that, you know? So there was that point that kind of led us to this whole like, whoa, light bulb moment yesterday morning, which was I realized what the big difference is between the two things on either side of the spectrum that we were saying. And it's the concept that this side over here is so focused on outward appearances and like looking good and like being buff and like, you know, being hot and looking cool and like and it's kind of it's aesthetic, and there's like stuff, you know, if you get into that culture, there's like stuff tied to it. It's like the cool cars and like look at my hot girlfriend and like that type of vibe. Okay, there's definitely a vibe, and we all know it.
A vibe. It's definitely a vibe.
There's a vibe, and we all know it.
Some bad vibes.
And obviously we never fit that like at all. Okay, so the concept of that stuff and kind of like, you know, what the culture is, and that being rooted a lot of times. I'm not gonna lay a blanket statement down and say this is the case for all of you and whatever, but a lot of time it is rooted in insecurity.
Sure.
It's rooted in what you don't have, and it's like the focus is very negative. It starts negative, and then all around as you go, it's pretty negative. It's like, okay, I am not that, so I need to be that. And in order to be that, I have to punish myself, and I have to force myself to do this, and I have to restrict, and I can't enjoy food. And like, I mean, if that is how you're starting off, every day is a chore, and every day is like just has a dark cloud above you. I feel like hovering above you, where it's just like, everything is always going to be focused on what you don't have, and you're never going to have enough type of thing.
And having been in the industry for so long, the dysmorphia is incredible.
Oh,
it's I mean, having worked with athletes, bodybuilders, weight loss, weight gain across the whole spectrum, you're never big enough.
Yeah.
You're never small enough. You're never strong enough. And it's like, man, and even watching interviews with some of the top bodybuilders of all time, I mean, these are monsters of human beings, and they still feel like they're just like, you're literally bigger than anyone on the face of the planet, and you don't think you're big enough for what? Like, it's the dysmorphia is really crazy, and it's really sad,
right?
Really. And this can be a story for another time. I've gone through a bit of that myself too, especially being in this industry and not being a bodybuilder and not stepping on stage and not doing steroids. Like,
no, legit, like you've thought that you've been fat in the past. Like,
and then you check yourself after a second, and you can kind of rebalance and reground yourself. But you just go through, you get on social media, you look at the other trainers.
I mean, social media, but it's been around forever. Yeah.
And I'm like, how can I call myself a trainer if I don't look like that guy who's on 4 different things? I mean, that's a whole other subject.
Yeah. We grew up with tabloids, with magazines at the height of media.
Movie stars. And
and I mean, some of the stuff is appalling. Yeah. When you look back now, you're like, that wouldn't even fly today. Like, there's still some gross stuff out there for sure, which is why we feel it's important to have this conversation now. I still think there's work to be done.
Yeah.
But I mean, just what everyone who's alive right now has grown up with is so intense and so dark.
We're both very like non-PC people too. Like, I don't know, I like kind of dark humor and like just to be able
making
to
fun of people, everyone, like making fun of everyone.
Yeah,
like Flagrant is one of our most favorite podcasts.
Right. Like, I love comedy. I love all of that stuff. And that being said, you can still see the things that are very internal that are so toxic about fitness culture.
100%.
Beyond, I'm like, like there's still some things like that really needs to change. Like, I don't care how long it's been, that needs to change.
So that, as opposed to desiring health or pursuing just health, doing it for the purpose of, I want to be the best version of me possible,
Sure.
is rooted in love.
Yeah.
Right? It's rooted in loving yourself, caring about yourself, and even not just yourself, but taking it outside of yourself and caring enough about your family,
Sure.
your kids, and your friends and whatever, your
Circle,
work,
yeah.
even enough to pursue health, like to pursue a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's the conversation that we were having when it was a light bulb moment, when we were just like, that's what it's always been about for us.
Yeah.
That's why we've always like not fit in the fitness and health space, is because we've always just genuinely cared about like self-improvement.
Yeah. Holistically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the individuality of health, and not knowing how to explain that.
Right.
And not having language for it, really.
It's very difficult when you're not surrounded by people who think that same way too. It's like when I walk into a gym, and 95% of trainers are doing things one way. And I'm like, okay, well, duh, that's what I should do. Market that way, do videos like this, you know, like whatever, like post on social media this way, and you'll grow and you'll get, and I'm like, when it goes against that grain so much to communicate a lot of the things that we are communicating and will communicate, that's tough.
Oh, especially like,
it feels impossible.
Yeah, especially older generations than us, which rightfully so, like it makes sense. Like I was just saying, everything that they have grown up with is even more intense. Like we've at least, our generation is like starting to have these conversations and realizing like, whoa, this is mentally really unhealthy and taxing, and like has led to suicides and shit. Like, wow, this is a really big issue. At least our generation has like started to talk about that. Generations that are older than us haven't gotten that benefit. And they have grown up with a literal brainwashing of, this is how you are supposed to look. If you don't look like this model, you are ugly. Period.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's fucked.
Yeah.
Like,
and there's
really
a lot to be said about all of this. And I mean, yeah, that's why I think it was worthy of an entire podcast series, however long this goes. But some people have really helped me in this arena, or at least one is coming to the to mind now. I can't think of the other one right now, but Sarah, I can't think of her last name, but the Birds Papaya on Instagram has really helped me, because I did grow up skinny, and I feel like that although I was extremely unhealthy, and it did make me uncomfortable when people commented on my skinniness, because I'm like, yeah, well, you have no idea what's going on behind closed doors. I'm underweight because I am sick all the time. And you are glorifying that, and you're giving me a compliment about it, which feels so freaking weird. Like, can't even say like, oh, you're so sick. Like, wow, you're lucky. Okay.
That's how it feels when it hits your filter.
Yeah. Thank you. Like, when really, like, I'm living in this internal hell.
Yeah. Right.
You know? And I know that's like, it's not to say Sarah has struggled with her weight on the other side, where people are always commenting on the fact that she's too fat and she's too big and all this stuff. And she's had like however many kids and whatever. Is living a very fulfilling life.
Yeah.
Is like
just being.
Yeah, and overall seems decently healthy, but her whole thing is like talking about this type of stuff because she went through a phase where she calorie restricted like intensely. And had body dysmorphia and all this stuff, and it really led her down a dark path, and now she's very open about this stuff. And yeah, I want to talk about this stuff more. And I want it to be more mainstream to talk about, and I think it will give people at least a language to our business.
Sure.
Which, if it's not your vibe, that's totally fine.
100%.
That's like totally fine. that will not offend us at all. But I feel like we were like not being transparent in the fact that, like, if you want the most buff trainer and like the most hyped like
up,
beat you up trainer that like isn't going to care about your joints because this guy does. This guy cares about every single aspect of the human body and your human body individually.
Yeah.
And sometimes the methods he uses may take even longer than somebody.
People get frustrated at times because they know all they care about is weight, right? It might be a number. I need to lose weight. And so I want to go from 240 pounds to 220 pounds because 220 pounds is what I weighed my senior year of college.
Or I have this event.
Right, exactly. I've got to
a
fit
lot
into
of
this
times.
thing, whatever. And I know that if I eat less, I starve myself, or I cut out carbs, or I cut out whatever, I can lose the number. I can lose weight. And
they've done it before, even.
And they've done it before. I mean, the last time I cut out carbs, I lost 42 pounds. I'm like, great, it's awesome. And my goal has always been to find I call it lifestyle editing, where we can take things that you enjoy, take things that you genuinely like about food, that you like about your lifestyle, and how can we integrate movements and corrections and habits in food in a way that you don't hate yourself at the end of the day. And I've told every single client this, like, I don't eat chicken, rice, and broccoli every day.
Heck no.
I would hate myself.
We just had a really good bacon burger for dinner.
Literally. Very high quality ingredients.
We like our meat grass-fed and whatnot.
We'll dive into that maybe another time too. The depth of nutrition. Obviously, there's a lot to that.
We want to share a lot more about that.
But on the surface, if I told everyone, like, hey, you want to be healthy? Have a bacon cheeseburger for dinner.
And muffins for breakfast.
Now, what's in that bacon cheeseburger and muffin really matters for your overall, your gut health, your metabolism, all of that. And 100%. We'll dive into that. But I've always been a fan of, like, I love pizza. I love muffins. I love burgers.
I'm not living my life without that joy.
I love to cook.
Food is one of our biggest love languages.
Tell me.
Tell me. Oh my God, speak dirty to me.
Tell me more about food. I fucking love food.
No, both, like, we've always bonded on that.
Love food, foodies, love to cook, like all, like the whole thing. Love it. Hate dishes.
Not giving up pancakes, not giving up cinnamon rolls, like literally I'm not giving up anything.
Yeah. So what can I have within the constructs that I know is good for my body, it's healthy for my metabolism, still supplies good blood flow to the brain? Like, how can I keep my heart healthy and not hate my life? That's been the structure of my business, the identity of my business, no pun intended, has been, how can I do that for people? If you like these things, and it's why it's kind of an ongoing joke in my business, kind of like, I'll literally never make you do a burpee. No one likes burpees. They're not that great for you. There's a million other things you could do.
Yeah, we don't have to go there.
This whole podcast is like, don't do keto and CrossFit. Like, no, that's not what this is about.
Or just dogging on everyone and their methods. If you have found a
great community in CrossFit, and you have found a methodology of moving in a healthy way with a healthy community in CrossFit and keto and whatever, it literally does not matter to me.
That's the whole point.
That's the whole point of this whole thing. And we're just joking because of the trendiness and stuff like that, where people are like, well, this will fix all of my issues.
And because it doesn't work for us, and I think it bothers us and annoys us when everyone is like trying to, sell us on it.
Yeah.
It's like, just please, like, I don't want to be sold on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say on that. Or just like, please don't act like you know my body and what would be good for me, because there's certain reasons why it wouldn't be, and
for sure,
that's just what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
But 100%. I really think that if we could sum it up, it would be that you liked to use sustainable methods.
Yeah.
Something that is going to set them up to succeed in the long run.
That's what I was. I'm sorry. I want to finish my point really quick, because I meant to get to it, and we kind of already alluded to it. But a lot of times when I help you eat things that are still good for you, but maybe aren't cutting entire food groups out of your entire diet, and I give you mobility movements and stuff to strengthen your rotator cuff in your wrist because it's given you issues for 22 years, that might push your huge goal of weight loss and this number that you have in mind down the road a little bit, because we're going to take care of the core of things. We're going to take care of the very source of your pain, the source of your injuries, the source of your muscle tension and fatigue, stuff like that. And so a lot of times I think people get frustrated because they've either, like you said, they've done it before and lost the 20 pounds fast, or they've seen everyone on Instagram say lose 30 pounds in 30 days.
Take this pill.
Take this pill, do this workout, and you'll lose 20 pounds. Do this cardio, do this HIIT, whatever. Try this diet. And so I think that's been a pain point in my business, is like, how do I market you not getting your results fast enough? How do you do that?
Yeah.
But you being safe, being in a safe environment to express yourself, you being in a place where you still love food, you still love your life. And
like, I mean, life in general. Like right now, I find myself really not wanting to go in the gym. I just don't want to work out in the gym right now. I can't even really explain why. I think I'm tired of it. I'm really worn out of like working out in the gym and
maybe,
but also just like the machines. Like, I don't know, something's just feeling so synthetic to me about it. And so I just find myself wanting to be in nature more. If you know me, you know I love nature. I love the moon. I love the stars. I love the sky. I love how it's different every day. I just love nature. It's really hard to live here too because it's like brutally hot and just
nature's
too hot.
Brown here.
Yeah, and also just too hot to go out a lot of the times. But I've been finding myself wanting to do my workouts outside more. And just finding some method of movement that I can do outside and not having the pressure or the guilt that comes along with you're not working hard enough or like, you know, if you want to be buff, then you got to go lift weights and that's the only way you're going to be buff and all that stuff. And I do still have some of that stuff in
Squat
that it's ingrained. Like it just is. Probably in all of us, literally.
Yeah, for sure.
And it affects us all. It is either a massive weight, which is hanging on in the form of guilt, or it is an obsession, and you're in the gym 24/7. I mean, literally, we see those people all the time. Or, you know, you fall somewhere in between, which is the bulk of us. But it's still there. And it's like, I just want to give people hope and encourage them that it doesn't have to be so horrible. It really doesn't. And I really want people to know that. Yeah. Like you don't have to do things you hate. Actually. Like that's what it comes down to. You don't have to force yourself to do something that you hate. I'm sure that there is a method of movement that you would enjoy, even if it's just a walk, like even if it's hiking, like I don't know. There's got to be some form that, you know, gets your heart rate up a bit, that has the health benefits.
Yeah, right.
The point of why movement and exercise is healthy for us. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is stop punishing yourself.
That's been like the sweet balance, I think, in our life right now is understanding that there's multiple ways to get things, still understanding that there's value to discipline and value to getting outside of your comfort zone and doing things, because that's where some of the growth and progress happens.
That's where a personal trainer comes in.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, the accountability.
Exactly. And so how can you marry the two? Because I feel like people go all one way or the other. That's kind of what the whole point of this is. It's like there is a middle ground that is very powerful and very grounding and very balanced for people's lives, where it doesn't have to be all, and I love some of these people with like the David Goggins kind of like, and again, I have massive amounts of respect for people that are just, it's all the grind and get out and work, run 20 miles a day. And that's the whole thing. And you're like, fuck, if I don't run 20 miles, I only ran 10. I'm weak. I'm like, whatever, I'm not doing enough. And that's obviously a huge aspect of culture. And then on the other side, being like, I'm not going to do anything.
Right.
I have no discipline. I have no structure.
No one's going to tell me anything.
Right, right. But you want to develop healthy habits that make sense within your lifestyle. I think most people do nothing because the only thing they know to do is too overwhelming.
Too overwhelming.
So if the only thing that's been presented to you is an hour in the gym, an hour of cardio, and this perfect eating, you're like, well, I can't do that, so I'll do nothing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know so many people that have come to me and that has been their story. Probably 70% of my clients, they're like, I'm here in front of you because when I go to the gym, I walk in the treadmill because I don't have anything else to do. I'm overwhelmed. And
there's a big group of people too that have come to you that have had bad experiences with trainers.
100%.
Rightfully so. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
I completely understand where they're coming from. I mean, I would say that's like, I don't know, 85% of your clientele. And like, and then we just know there are people who are too afraid to work with you because they're like, oh, I've tried the trainer thing. Like, sorry, bro, but no, like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And I guess just showing people that there can be value in it. You don't absolutely need a trainer. If you've got it on your own, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But a trainer that maybe has some balance, I don't know, sounds better to me. If I was going to hire a trainer, that's what I would want. So yeah.
And if anything, maybe that's some of what this podcast can be for people is I've found that, like, I watch a lot of comedy podcasts, and I've found an outlet in comedy where they get to say the crazy things that everyone's thinking that you probably wouldn't necessarily say, or you don't have words really to express. And maybe this can be kind of a similar safe space for people where it's like, I feel a disdain for the industry. I feel like an alien in the gym. I walk in there and I feel like everyone's staring or whatever it might be. Like, you have all these insecurities, you have this dysmorphia, or you have all these feelings that bubble up when it comes to the topic of health and fitness. And maybe this can be a place where two people who have gone through some of these things, and if not have studied these things to some extent, can give you a safe environment to be like, oh, that's what I've been thinking this whole time. I'm not the only one. I'm not, alone out here thinking there's something wrong with me. And just giving people a safe space to maybe re-understand their health.
Yeah.
Change their perspective. Yeah.
Process. Just be, I guess. Yeah, definitely. I also really want to recognize that mental health is a big part of the conversation. Yeah. And so we can have, future episodes on that, but I don't want to just leave this off like there are times when like you just need to refer somebody to a psychiatrist, like or a psychologist or counselor, like somebody who, can talk through the internal mindsets and sometimes brainwashing.
Yeah.
And body dysmorphia and all that stuff is mental. Like, there's definitely a big aspect of that, or to that. So, yeah, it's not like we have all the answers, like we were saying. I mean, I feel like we're honestly barely scratching the surface of this conversation and this topic.
100%.
I mean, it's really like 1,000 topics in one.
Yeah.
But, just opening the door to it just feels good. I feel more free even, just being more authentic and more genuine.
This is the conversation we have every single day in some way. It comes up. And I think part of what this is just kind of bringing y'all along for that conversation. I mean, that's what happened yesterday was we were like having this conversation basically and being like, man, I like
we should be recording
wish that was like recorded somehow. And then like, why don't we do that?
Yeah.
Why
don't we just
bring people into what we're so passionate about?
So I hope you guys have appreciated this conversation. I hope you got something from it, or, whatever. Maybe it was even just entertainment. But I look forward to having more conversations and opening up this topic more.
Yeah.
Exploring it more even with you guys.
Me too. I'm really excited about it. And it would really help if y'all either follow wherever you're watching this, wherever you find this, whether it's on,
if you do enjoy it.
If you do enjoy it, liking it, following, subscribing, all of that stuff really helps out. Get this message to more people.
I really do feel like it's an important topic that I want people to know. I just want to have the conversation with people.
Yeah.
I feel like we haven't gotten to talk about it enough.
Yeah.
And I want to find the people that want to have this conversation.
Right. Like, I want to know, and I'm not trying to be salesy, like, comment below if you can, whatever. But, like, I really do, like, if y'all can relate to this conversation, relate to the message, or have a story in this lane, let us know. DM if you don't want to comment.
Yeah.
I mean, comment please, but DM us. Let us know. Shoot us a
Let
message.
us know that we're not alone.
Right. We're not out on this
Please.
island here talking about this stuff. But I don't. I mean, just in my client base, I know that we're not. You know, I
right.
know that
we
there's
know
so
we're
many
not,
people.
but yeah, like I want to hear from people.
Yeah, that feel alienated by the industries and stuff. So yeah, make sure y'all are following along, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and
it's not me, it's them.
And we'll see y'all next time.
Thank you guys.
Peace.
See you next time. Good?
I think it's awesome.
You keep giving me high fives.